Okay, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting, Park and Rec Commission meeting for September 8th here at 7:30 to order. The first order of business is the new state of Connecticut rules for virtual meetings requires each person to identify themselves and state their name. So if we can just do a quick roll call, if I say your name, if you would just, of course, repeat your name and say present, that would be great. So Carl Mason.
Mason, present.
George Bennington.
George Bennington, present.
Francesca Segalis.
Francesca Segalis, present.
Hank Green.
Hank Green, present.
Jake Granito.
Jake Granito, present.
Laura Costigan.
Laura Costigan, present.
Matt Conspor.
Matt Conspor, present.
Jack Hawkins.
Jack Hawkins, present.
Jean Goodman.
Present.
Okay, and if I'm correct, who we do not have present is Steve Haberstraw. Steve, are you on? Just to double check. All right, that is the only one I show is not present, B.
Okay.
Great, thank you so much. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the Park and Rec Commission meeting from July 14th. Obviously, we did not have a meeting in August, so if anyone would like to take a second and make a motion, just identify yourself if you make the motion.
I'll approve it, Jake.
I'll
That
second
was
it,
Jake
George.
Granito, B, and do we have a second? Just
Second,
remember
George.
to identify. George Bennington.
Second.
And is there anyone opposed to the meeting minutes being approved? All in favor, just by show of hands, then we don't have to do it individually. Fabulous, that was everyone.
Rana, Steve Haberstraw is on the meeting.
Great, Steve, if you could just do me a favor and unmute and just state your name and hit, include the word present.
Steve Haberstraw, present, and I'm in
Thank
favor
you.
of approving the minutes.
Okay, so it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. That was well done, everyone. All right, well, moving right along. Second item on the agenda is Planet New Canaan. Katie Owsley is with us and is going to be talking about the Waveney Pool parking lot, similar to previous years, and using it as a drop-off site for recycling Christmas trees, again, for January of 22. Katie, the mic is yours.
Great, thank you for having me. Thank you all for your support of the program last year. It was our pilot year. And it was a great success. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had about 500 Christmas trees that were diverted from the New Canaan transfer station, which was just fantastic. It was very well received by residents in town. It ran very smoothly. And it was great to see multiple people, multiple groups working together, New Canaan Slobs, the town, Planet New Canaan, and actually a lot of the kids who offer Christmas tree pickups were super helpful. So we were really excited about the program and hoping to replicate it this year. I've already worked with the Nature Center and they're excited to take the mulch again. I think this year, one of the changes we'd like to do is we're looking at the dates. Last year we ran it a Sunday to a Sunday, and we'd really like to run it Saturday to Sunday. So possibly the 1st through the 9th, we really wanted to capture 2 weekends as they were by far the busiest days for us. And we are so happy that the New Canaan Exchange Club has provided us a grant. They were super helpful last year, and they were going to have given us a grant to help offset any of the costs that the town might incur from any of the chipping or hauling, and also to help with some of the publicity costs. So we are looking to use the Waveney Pool parking lot again, to work with Steve and Tiger to figure out any changes that would need to be made to make it run even more smoothly for them.
Do we have any questions from the commission? If so, just a hand. Do not see any hands up. No hands. B. With that said, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to approve the use of the Waveney Pool parking lot in January on 2 consecutive weekends? Francesca, if you'll just state your name and say motion.
Francesca Segalis, motion to have the Christmas tree thing take place in the swimming pool parking lot again.
Thank you. Is there a second? If someone could say it verbally.
George Bennington, seconds.
Thank you. And anyone opposed? All in favor? Show of hands. That was you.
Rana, could I just clarify one thing?
Of course.
You said to run on 2 separate weekends. We actually ran the week in between as well. We're just hoping to
Thank you.
fully grab those 2 weekends on the end, but also run it in between.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. That was it.
Thank you.
You are all
Alright.
set.
Okay. Bye all. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Katie. And Wendy, Wendy's last name, Francesca, if you want to rename her, is Dewey, Dewey.
Wendy.
And third on the agenda, next item is Wendy Dewey, and it's the New Canaan Garden Club regarding Irwin Park and a proposal for some meadow planting. So Wendy, we will give you the mic. And would you like, do you have slides you'd like to show?
There was a map that I don't have slides I'd like to show. There is a
Okay.
map that was emailed to us with the agenda, and it's large.
I think Tiger, if you're there, are you able to
Have it
share
on.
her?
You know,
Oh, boy.
I don't
Okay,
know how
no.
well you'll be able to see it.
Excuse me,
but-
is Dewey EY or Y?
Dewey.
Thank you.
Perfect. Go ahead, Wendy. The mic is yours then.
Thank you. I wanted to thank all of you for supporting our GOAT initiative for the Garden Club. We've had so much positive feedback, and we really appreciate all the help we've received. This, as you may know, was our third and final season having them in the park. So they have gone back to Rhinebeck, New York, and their fence has been taken down. And the next phase that we want approval for is the planting phase. And so our hope is that in the last week of September, Parks and Rec will come in with the brush hog and do one final mowing of the area where they're able to mow. And then we were going to seed the entire area with a meadow mix. And part of the area is wetlands. So there is a wetland mix for that wetland area on either side, and it will gradually turn from the wetland mix into the regular meadow mix as it goes away from the more wet areas. So that will take place the first week of October. And then in the end of March, we're planning in the area that is between the gazebo and Wahakme. We were going to put 5 red maple trees. Everything we're putting in is native to the area, will help with pollinators, and will help to crowd out the knotweed and the mugwort. If we have enough funds, because people keep sending money in, then we also wanted to put some plugs in, and those would be milkweed and butterfly bushes. Everything in keeping with what would naturally be there, and trying to keep with the beauty of the park as well. Anybody have any questions?
You left us speechless. Go ahead, Carl Mason.
Yeah, I have
has
a question. I noticed when I was walking through there the other day, there's a few fallen logs in there in that area. Would they have to be moved before the brush cutter came through? I just want to make sure that Parks Department was aware of that.
I think the Parks Department knows that they are there, and they could mow around them. Quite honestly, that area has almost nothing in it. That was where one of the trees that had been completely strangled by vines was cut down, and we left the logs in there for the goats to play on. So they did a great job of trampling that area because that was their playground. It can be removed if they want, but it's not necessary.
John, do you see any issues with that area?
We shouldn't have any problem. I was told before that we were supposed to mow around them to leave them there for habitat for other animals, but you know, as long as it's not in the wetlands approval to remove them, we can go either way.
It's not in the wetlands.
That's great. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, no show of hands there, B. So is there anyone who would have a motion to approve the New Canaan Garden Club's request for the meadow plantings at Irwin Park? If so, if you can just say it verbally.
Jake Granito, approves that.
Okay, and that was Jake Granito, and it looks as though second behind that was Gene Goodman, but I don't think, there you go, Gene. If you would just say you're.
Gene Goodman seconds.
And is there anyone opposed? All in favor, a show of hands? Thank you so much. Congratulations, Wendy, it's approved.
Thank you. May I ask one more thing? If we have funding next year, would we be allowed to bring the goats back to finish off across the path? May as well, so that we don't have to go through the entire process again. In Irwin Park, would we be able to in the future, if the spot was defined as one that was a good idea from the commission, would there be a way to expedite the process in the future if we just wanted to bring them into some small areas?
I don't know that, Steve, do you see an issue with it being within the park and still Irwin Park, but just new location? Would that need to come in front of Parks and Rec?
Talking about the trees or
The goats.
The goats.
the goats? We approved the goats last time they brought them out. They came to us with the goats 3 years ago, and we approved adding the goats to the park.
So then they're
Okay,
just approved. Okay, great.
yes. And thank you, it's a hit.
Thank you very much.
You
Yeah.
go.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much,
you,
Wendy.
everybody. Thank you. Have a good night.
Fourth item on the agenda is the Waveney Disc Golf, and Carl Mason will be presenting. Carl, the mic is yours.
You can't hear me though. Can you see the presentation and hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was report on a couple of meetings I had on disc golf through recent weeks, and bring that some of the items that came up there for further discussion. First off, I met with supporters of the disc golf course in June. There's a core group of volunteers who've been working on it for many years. I met with them. They walked me through the course. They showed me where the course could do with some maintenance and improvements. And there was talk of maybe the Parks Department getting involved. And then secondly, I met with John Howe and Todd Bicklin from the Parks Department just this last week to show them the disc golf course. We did the same walkthrough that I did with the supporters, and discussing what the Parks Department can do today and where we might need to request further resources if we were to get the Parks Department involved in some of that maintenance. So I want to give you a little bit of a feeling for what it is, what we're talking about with the disc golf course. Disc golf course has been open since 2007. Back in June 2007, the Parks and Rec Commission approved, got look from the minutes then, and a new section of Waveney Park would be made available for the enthusiasts to set up a temporary disc golf course with a view to making that permanent after a trial period. I see that from the minutes of some of the meetings since then, in 2007, the Parks Department did do some of the heavy lifting. There was some thanks from supporters of the disc golf course for the work that the Parks Department did on clearing several dead trees in order to help kick off the work on the course. But for most part, it was the supporters who were then going in and establishing the fairways, putting in the tees, and also putting in the baskets where the discs are captured. The initial setup was for 12 holes. Back in February 2008, the supporters came back with a request to install permanent baskets, which were then anchored concrete sleeves in the ground, and to improve the tee pads, signage, and install boardwalks. And Parks and Rec approved that, contingent on a discussion with the town environment agent to check that the changes don't violate wetland regulations. And what I'm showing here is a comparison of the course and a wetlands map here. And what you'll see is there's an awful lot of wetlands this is in this area. So to give you a sense of what we're looking at here, here's Waveney Pool, here's the parking lot for the pool. Here are the paddle courts. Here's the parking lot for the paddle. Lapham Road goes down here. Old Stamford Road comes across the top left-hand corner, and then the railway line comes in along the left-hand side. And it's all contained within this area. Fills up the whole lot of it, as you can see. And the bottom is a leaf mulch pile. Initially, there were 12. Now there are 18 holes there, and they take up, pretty much all the space in here. So it's quite an extensive network that's here for the disc golf. And as you can see, probably about half the lands there is wetlands. So it's understandable why there was a concern about how this might impact wetlands. So today, the disc golf course has been up and running for 14 years. Maintenance continues to be supporter driven with little to no town input. In the last 12 months, the volunteers did extend the course from 12 to 18 holes, and they reconfigured a number of the tees by just in the location of them, just to kind of like get better lines through to the baskets, or maybe to make some of the holes a little bit more challenging. In addition to the fairways here, there is a network of paths through the golf course. There's a perimeter path that goes around for the most of it. And then there's a path that comes through the middle. I don't have a map for that. I'm hoping to secure one for that. Some of those paths have become a little overgrown and are not passable. But in addition to maintaining the fairways, the supporters of the course do work on maintaining those paths as well. Find that creates a karma between the people flinging discs down the fairways and anybody who might be walking the dog through here. So it's a pretty nice setup they've got for being able to walk this area through the paths and also play golf. For disc golf, there are a few areas where the path parallels the fairways, but for the most part, the path network is actually separate from this. So these are the priorities that the disc golf supporters came to me with. These are in a rough order of priority. The first thing is mowing. Not all of the holes require, all of the fairways require mowing. A lot of the areas are in some pretty deep trees. But there are areas where the sun can come through, and there's some mowing that's necessary. I think if you look at what's growing there, there's a lot of Japanese stilt grass growing, which is probably making that a little more of an issue. It might have been, say, 14 years ago when this started, given that the stilt grass will just about grow anywhere. So the supporters estimate that the course would require some mowing about 3 times a year, and a couple of times in the spring and early fall. Second is brush cutting. The areas along the fairways can be deep in brush along some of the fairways. Ideally, the brush would be cut along to the line of the trees, creating an approximate 10-foot wide rough. But if you do play, especially in the summer and the fall, it can get pretty dense with this brush, and you do not want to play the course with a pair of shorts on. You've got to put on long pants, and pretty thick long pants at that, in order to not cut up your legs, especially if you're terrible at it like I am and you end up in the rough all the time. Third is to clear fallen logs and stick piles. Some of this may need to be done ahead of brush cutting. Fourth is to look at dead trees and any precarious fallen limbs. I believe the tree warden took a look at this many years ago. We may need to have the tree warden come through and take another look. And then trail maintenance, looking at that trail network that runs through the course. This would get lower down the list of priorities. There was a request to maybe look at clearing some of the wet spots on the paths. Could be a bit of a difficult issue given the wetlands there. I think in order to do anything there, we would have to do work with the Wetlands Commission to ensure that we're not creating any issues further down. For the most part, it's just running off just as nature intended at the moment, which means that some areas do get a little boggy. Improve the tees, which would require some significant investment there. You should be flat, free of hazards. You don't want to have roots and stones in there. You want it to be dry. To do a proper tee off, you're going to be running, so you don't want to be tripping over anything. And then finally, maybe clean up your dog signage, just as we have elsewhere in our parks. Maybe run some programs. We have tournaments there, maybe classes and camps, and then maybe a course map was a nice to have. Though, as you can see, like I got this map here from udisc.com, plenty of enthusiasts who will provide that online for you. The next actions, John and I, when we met last week, we discussed reaching out to the tree warden to take a look and see if there are any hazards in the course as it is. There's certainly an awful lot of forest out there, so need to take a look at the state of anything there, see whether there's anything that could create any harm. And then second, to reach out to the Wetlands Commission, check that any of the recent changes don't impact the wetlands. We want to ensure that we don't have any consequences downhill. And then for discussion, one thing I'd like to bring to the group is I think we need to start thinking about what would it take for the Parks Department to take care of some of the maintenance here. I think 14 years in, it's still popular. It's proven itself as a valuable asset. There's still an awful lot of interest in the disc golf. Anecdotally, it grew through COVID. It's a great activity, outdoors activity. It's free. And it certainly gets, every time I've been there, I'm not the only person playing disc golf. There are other groups going around the course. So if we want to maintain a disc golf course, what would it take for the Parks Department to take care of some maintenance? We have the resources to do this. Certainly access to the fairways is not easy. There's in order to access the course number one, the hole number one, you're walking through a gap in the stone wall and then walking along this narrow path. It's hard to imagine any of the Parks Department's heavy machinery going along this route in order to mow or take care of putting back brush. I think this is maybe something for the supporters to do. Help us is, we hear that anecdotes that it's popular. It'd be good to have a measure of support. So anything that we can get in terms of a sense of numbers or regular users, names, who are actively supporting the golf course and using it on a regular basis, I think will be very useful for us to help build out a plan for the future of the disc golf course as we kind of move it forward from what has been very much a volunteer run effort for the last 14 years. Seems to be a fairly decent asset and move that forward. So with that, I'll put it forward the floor for any questions.
John, did you have some comments regarding the presentation before we open it up for questions?
Yes, just briefly, with meeting with Carl last week, the estimated amount of work, I'm not prepared to put on that, or what would have to give in the Parks Department, especially with some of the mowing that they want to do during our busiest time. The 3 times a year are just at our busiest times. And as far as, cutting trees and logs and stuff like that, when it was originally approved, we were only supposed to take care of concerns and a few trees. And that's what we did. To be honest, we don't go in there. And the walking trails that go through there, we knowingly leave them as unmaintained trails. Where the ones through Waveney, we fix washouts. Not yet, but we do. And things like that. These trails are basically deer paths, goat paths type things where people walk, and that's what keeps them open. So that people have a variety of walking areas, that type of stuff. But we can definitely work on figuring out about how much effort would go into what they're looking for.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions from any of the commissioners? Jean Goodman.
Jean Goodman has a question.
Thank you, Jean. You'll just unmute. There you go.
Yes, it kind of follows along what John was saying, that obviously there's going to be a lot of resources required. But I was wondering, I didn't notice any all the requirements, there was talk about the volunteers do a lot. Would it be possible for Carl at some point to come back and to delineate of all those items where they need help, what he's expecting Parks Department or Park and Rec to do versus what the volunteers are doing? I think that would help clarify in anyone's mind as to how much effort is required. I assume the volunteers are willing to do something. So some clarity there would be helpful.
Yeah, certainly. The volunteers are are still looking to be involved. I think that they're just looking for a bit of a helping hand with that, and I think maybe a good delineation between the two areas of responsibility will help going forward. So I'll follow up with the supporters on that.
Thank you, Carl. Jean, good comment. I also am curious. It's hard to track who's using that. It isn't as though there's a sign in or a QR code. I know that most QR codes are free. It might be a great idea to come up with a free QR code that as people start the course, they're kind of logging in so that we're able to understand if it's mostly New Canaan residents or out of towners. Just a suggestion. And great report, Carl. Thank you.
Okay. That's a great idea, Ronna. I'll look into that as well. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Questions, please.
Tim Smith, former Park and Rec Commission member, and the person that built the course and maintains it. I'm one of the, I guess, supporters, as you put it. Carl, great report. I also, so the perimeter path that John described is I don't know, goat path. I don't know what he said. It used to be, I think, Steve, you could probably clarify this. It used to be an equestrian trail a long time ago, if I'm not right.
Many years ago, when the town first purchased Waveney Park, there was an agreement with the Ox Ridge Hunt Club, and they were able to bring the people able to ride their horses from Ox Ridge up, and there was a series of equestrian trails through that parcel of property. But then as property got developed in Darien, their trails to New Canaan disappeared, and we discontinued the agreement with them. So that was back in the mid-'70s.
Yeah, so I think what we were trying to do, there are supporters that don't play disc golf, and we were just trying to reestablish some of the walking trails around the perimeter. And Carl, I do have a map dating back from, I don't remember, from 1989 from Moody and O'Brien surveyors that also look at the wetlands. And I have a copy for you that I can give to the commission. So we can look at the wetlands. Kathy Holland did walk with us. I'm not sure if she's still on Park and Wetlands. Wetlands.
She's still in wetlands, and she's still director of wetlands. Yes.
Okay, so she did walk with us originally through the area because there were concerns originally. So I'd be happy to walk through again with her and make sure we're not doing anything wrong or anything like that. Also, the idea of supporters help and a list of emails or something like that, I think is a great idea, and I'll definitely work on that. As far as I'm not sure. And maybe I'll work with Carl as to get a list of priorities for us. And the mowing, I think, can be twice a year. It's like late spring, maybe June is when we did one. And then in the fall, when things die down, we go at it again. But I think that's about all I have to say. And also on UDisc, Carl mentioned is a map, he got the map for the course, but they also record anyone that's played around there that they can record their round on UDisc for any disc golf course in the United States. But I mean, that's one way of tracking how many people play there also. So I don't know if anyone has a question for me as far as support goes. We're going to continue to work on the course. I mean, it's a passion for a few of us. That's about all I have to say. So,
Francesca?
How is traffic through there? Not foot traffic. Are there a lot of people who are using it more than since you last came and presented before us?
Absolutely. I think once we established 18 holes, that made a difference as far as enthusiasm for a disc golf course. There's also dog walkers back there, and they've been very good. We haven't had any problems with them at all.
Great.
I've seen a couple bike riders back there, which is great. And that's why I think we would like to establish those perimeter trails, because I think those would be excellent for walkers and bike riders too. So, but yeah, I think since, like I think Carl mentioned, COVID was it in a way got more people on the course for sure. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Carl, for the report, and John for your feedback. We look forward to what comes up in the future for that. It is a great space. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right, our next item on the agenda is an update of Kiwanis Park Summer 2021 events. The update will be given, I believe, by Steve Dayton. Steve, you are here, and I will bring up your report. Give me 1 second.
Great, thanks.
You're up.
All right. Kiwanis was very successful this summer. We did a few new things. I'm not going to go through everything. I'll probably just highlight a couple of the really good events. The two big things we did is we partnered with the Canaan Library, and we partnered with the Newcomers Club. And the Newcomers Club came in, and they had 4 beach days spread out over the summer, and they had an adult social. The 4 beach days averaged anywhere, about 40 to 60 kids. The high was 80 kids one day. And the adult social had, I believe, 97, just under 100 adults come for the adult social. So I want to give a big shout out to the newcomers. They were a very good addition to Kiwanis this summer. And the other big part was the New Canaan Library. They had story time every Wednesday for 7 weeks once Kiwanis was open. And they averaged, they did 2 different times, 10:15 and then 11 o'clock. And they had 40 kids and parents show up for that about each time. And their big event for the summer was a Harry Potter parade on Harry Potter's birthday. And we had a little over 110 kids show up for that. And we provided prizes and ice cream for everybody that showed up. So those are our 2 big things. You can see what else is up there. And then just what we're trying to do coming up, for next year. These are some ideas that, the friends at Kiwanis Park gave us, and we look to build on stuff with the newcomers and the library, and hopefully throw in, if not all these, most of these that we can do. So very successful summer for Kiwanis.
Great.
It was really great. Steve, I think having, use of such an underutilized park, as we've been hearing for years, is so positive to see a simple turnaround with very to little, almost no money spent. And by using, resources of our town that are looking for great locations, and the Friends of Kiwanis Park, being aware and happy to see the activity. And it's not as though we're doing a concert for 500 or anything that would disturb the neighbors. These all seem to be really good events. So well done. Kudos to you for pulling this off. I really appreciate that, and hearing how many participated and that it was kind of all ages. And I like that there are some future activities that could happen. Is there anyone on the commission that has any questions for Steve at this time? Fabulous, Steve. Incredible update. Thank you. We look forward to see what you do the rest of the year and in 2022. Thanks. Good job on this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda is a tennis paddle pickleball update by George Bennington. George, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Ronna. Good evening, everybody. Steve helped me with all these numbers, and I really appreciate it. For the numbers are absolutely fantastic. Tennis permit sales are up 70% over 2020. Sold a total of 473 permits so far this year compared to 277 last year and 142 the previous year. So we can obviously see the post-COVID effects or the COVID effects are having a huge impact on our facilities. This spring, we had about 428 people register for different clinics. Obviously that's a growing, more popular area. The 7 high school courts are undergoing preparation for resurfacing at this point, and I would suspect that will be done shortly. The pickleball courts are open for play, and the tennis backboard has been delivered, and the contract will be installing it shortly. Clinics will start September 14th through November 9th. I've become a diehard pickleball fan myself, so it's a lot of fun. And the paddle courts will open on Saturday, October 2nd. Steve, would you like to add anything here? I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. They're absolutely phenomenal. Is there any strain on this that we should be aware of in terms of, I don't want to say overusage, but is there some wear and tear here that we should probably potentially be looking at maybe a year or so from now?
No, the courts are getting a lot of use. They do require maintenance. And I spoke to John and Tiger this year. We were lucky to get the contractor in early to get the courts open by the second weekend of May, which worked out well. The one thing we do need is some new tapes for the courts, because some of the tapes are a couple of years old and they're starting to cup and curl. So when people drag the courts with the drag broom, the material tends to get stuck under the tape, and you start pulling them out of the court surface. And I've spent a lot of time this summer re-nailing tapes back down and things. But otherwise the courts are good. We have a good reservation system with tennis bookings, which we use for paddle tennis, pickleball, and we're using for the high school courts. So the reservation system worked pretty well. We did have a tenant on duty for parts of the summer in June into early July at the high school to monitor play on the courts. As you mentioned, the contractors they've got to do a little more work than they originally anticipated to resurface the courts at the high school. They've got to strip all 7 courts down to the concrete and then put a primer base coat down, and then they can put the 2 or 3 coats of painted surface on the courts to redo them. So hopefully, if the weather cooperates, by the end of September, they should be finished with the project. Okay. Pickleball's busy. We're gonna have clinics. Our fall tennis clinics are almost sold out, which is great. Just watching US Open the other day, the comment was made by one of the commentators that tennis is on the upswing because people want to get outside and have some exercise, and they rediscovered tennis, that it's an area where they go out, they can play, get exercise, you're still spread out, and you can have fun. So tennis is undergoing a big rediscovery in the last 18 months, and we're seeing that, and I think it's great. It's all been used, and we get a lot of activity.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Well, obviously the numbers speak for themselves, and my only sort of concern is that with all this wear and tear, there may be more deferred maintenance that we'll have to address down the road. It's a good problem to have. We'd love to have this type of problem. So kudos to you, Steve, for the phenomenal job you've done running these facilities and these programs. So that's my report.
George, thank you so much. I think, it's nice to spread those kudos. I know that both Steve Benko and Steve Dayton do a great job, and the tennis and the paddle managing that. I would say hats off to Steve Haberstraw for the years and the works of, working with Tiger and John and these guys and getting the bids and kind of pushing pickleball along. I know it was, we hoped it had started a year ago, but so thank you for that it's finally here, and it's amazing and it's getting used. Do we have any questions for George or Steve regarding tennis, or Francesca? And then Carl.
Yes, I have questions on both of them. The tennis, we somehow the brooms started missing. So there was one for courts 4 and 5 and one broom for courts 1 and 2. Has that since been fixed, Steve? I've been away for a couple weeks.
I don't know where they went to. They were there there were two brooms on one broom for each court, and I noticed we're missing some brooms. I don't know where they went. We didn't remove them. So I don't know.
Okay, so can we get those replaced? Because everybody has been really good about sweeping up. It would be
They're
great.
expensive to replace. You're looking at $200 a broom. They're expensive. I don't know where the brooms went to. They disappeared. There were 8 brooms on all the courts, and where they went to, I don't know. I don't know why someone would take them.
Okay, I think we need to get them replaced somehow.
It's also the funding and the budget and stuff, so we'll work on that.
All right, and then on the pickleball courts, we need squeegees because when it rains even a slight bit.
They're on order. They're back ordered. Like a lot of things with COVID, the suppliers don't have it. So I've got the housings to hang the squeegees in, but the squeegees are on back order. And as soon as I get them, we'll put them up.
Okay. Good. So probably within the next 2 weeks.
I can't guarantee that. It's when they get them from the supplier. Like anything else, a lot of these things are made overseas, and trying to get things out of shipping containers and cargo ports has been next to impossible. So I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know. And then the leaves, the trees are right there, which is really nice for giving you shade. But as we hop into fall now, we're going to be having a ton of leaves on the courts. So brooms would be nice. And hopefully the attendant can blow the leaves off.
We've been blowing them off every day. And you don't want brooms there because they just create issues. So I think we'll blow them off in the morning, and that's what you'll have.
Okay, thank you. Let's see what else. Oh, the half-hour booking increments. We've talked about this over the past 2 or 3 Parks and Rec Commission meetings, and I really want to reiterate that doubles tennis and pickleball, you play for an hour and a half. You don't just play for an hour. So having the booking be just for 1 hour is difficult to work around. And can we please have that changed so that you can book in half-hour increments, and then we can book for an hour and a half without leaving a court there unattended for a half hour because everybody's playing for an hour and a half. Right now, you can only book for 2 hours.
It won't work, Francesca. You're going to have to do like doing paddle tennis. You'll play 8 to 9:30, 9:30 to 11, 11 to 12:30. If you start having people booking half hours of place, you're going to have open court time, and it just you're not going to get full maximum use of your courts. That's the problem. Is if you allow people to book on the half hour, you'll have somebody play from 8 to 9:30. Somebody play from 8:30 to 11. And it'll make a lot of open time in your courts, and it won't be continuity for people who want to play. You're taking time away. You're losing court time.
No, we're actually losing court time now because people have to book for 2 hours, and then there's a whole half hour when the court is booked that the people have left.
I haven't heard any complaints.
The opposite happens.
I'm sorry, Rana, what?
Have we received these complaints? I haven't heard of these complaints. Steve Dayton,
yes, there are a lot of people complaining.
Not to me.
This is David Hill. I'm just a player, so I'm sorry to jump in. But yeah, we've tried to book for an hour and a half as well. We actually sent emails to the software administrator. We did not hear back from. I assume that's a setting that the town decides. So we would also like to have an hour and a half booking.
B, that was David Hill, just for the comments. Steve Dayton or Steve Banco, do you want to comment?
I just said, people have complained. They've said, well, we like to play for more than an hour. And then I said, well, you're not playing by yourself. So, have the other person you're playing with book another hour session. And sometimes they end up playing for 2 hours. Sometimes they don't. But
it's a waste of time.
Francesca, then we're not going to get the people playing at 8 o'clock. Everybody's going to want to play at 9:30 to 11. And then we're going to have.
Okay, but then it's free at 8 o'clock.
Or 9 to 11. And then we're going to have the whole hour left open from 8 to 9. So I think
really
it's easier.
We ought to have some tennis players, a meeting with tennis and paddle and pickleball players, because if you have them in the group talking about this. I think I'm the only commissioner who plays racket sports. And all of us play for an hour and a half if it's doubles.
So
The
I
only
think
time you play for an hour is if it is singles. And even then, you have to have a little bit of warm-up time. But 2 hours is too long. And we're stuck right now having to book for 2 hours.
so. Francesca, why don't we set aside a time for a meeting with tennis to hear from the tennis players to get, a confirmation and how many are complaining and what the consensus is. I think
Right.
we could go
All
back and
racket
forth, and your
sports.
point's
It's
well taken. And I think
paddle. Thank you.
Francesca, if you want to know something, in Darien, you want to play paddle tennis, you pay by the hour. So if you want to play for an hour and a half, you don't buy a permit for the season. They charge you $25 an hour to play paddle tennis. So if you want to play for an hour and a half, it costs your group $37.50, which you have to pay to reserve your court. So I mean, that's something else to look at.
Yes.
What we have is a good
I
discount.
play in Darien. I play in Darien, and but you can book it for an hour and a half.
Right, when you pay for it.
So you might pay for 2 hours, but you can book it for an hour and a half. And it's I think it's $20 for the court for an hour. So everybody is paying $5. So that's less expensive than us too.
so. Francesca, do you want to put something aside, work with Steve Dayton and get a meeting with the tennis
Yes.
players and
Very,
then get
very
back to
much.
us? If not at October, Parks and Rec Commission, maybe we'll add that to November agenda to give you some time, whatever you think, but just get back to us and let us know.
Thank you, Anna. That would be great.
Thank you. And
Also,
sorry,
the tape, I wanted to also address the tennis courts. The tapes have been coming up. And I wonder if that's something that needs to be addressed at the beginning of the season, or was it addressed and they are coming up now? What is the reason for the tapes coming up?
Francesca, the tapes are 2 years or 3 years old. They get old and they cup, and that's the problem. We're going to try and John is going to look at getting new tapes next year. If we get new tapes, they'll
So-
stay flat. That's a big
Great.
thing.
So Steve, you're saying that the hope is to have new tapes for next season?
If John can get new tapes next season, that would be a big help, because the old tapes are all cupping. They're old. They're 2-3 years old. They cup.
Francesca, every year we replace 2 courts worth of tapes. And that's what we've been doing for years. The more play, the more use, the more they need to be replaced. If there's money allowed in the budget, we will buy new tapes.
Okay, so let me say that we need to have money in the budget for the tapes, because that's also a liability, people tripping on the tapes. Thank you.
thank you, John. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Francesca. Carl, I believe you had a comment or question.
Yeah, question was about the booking system for the pickleball. Do we anticipate that this will run through the year? Will this go 12 months of the year? We had quite a lot of success on paddle with that running on a kind of on a self-regulated basis, with people putting in their slots. So I wondered if we were going to do the same for pickleball out of season.
We can leave the system up and running. People can make reservations down and be on the honor system. Right now, we have people asked to check in with their attendant, and what this does is it allows our residents to get used to the courts. Some of the other towns don't do that, and you have people from all over the place coming to play on their courts. So I think we're just trying to make the courts available for our residents.
Right. How long is the season for having the attendant?
The attendant is on duty at the tennis courts until the first weekend in November, and then we're done with tennis closes up.
Will we be closing pickleball at that same time, you think?
No, pickleball stay open, and people can make reservations to be on the honor.
So use the booking system to make reservations. Great, thanks.
Thank you, Carl. And George, thank you again for your update. And Francesca, we'll wait to hear your update in October, November, once you come to that conclusion. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate that. There's a lot of passion and there's also a lot of use. And I know it would be great to track the amount of money and revenue that comes in. I understand the tennis and paddle goes into the general fund, but I will say that's brought in a lot of revenue, a lot of use, and also a lot of revenue. So thank you to everyone involved.
I'm going to mention one more thing. Key to so many people getting memberships for tennis has been that it opened at May 1st. And I really want to rally us to make sure that happens every year from now on.
Thanks, Francesca. Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the Spencer's Run Advisory Committee members. For those of you that are not aware, there is a group of volunteers, simply volunteers, that I'll show my screen, that help walk the park, pick up trash, pick up deposits from dogs that are not, let me find this, that have not been picked up by the members that come in and out of the park. They work closely with John Howe when we're out of the dog poop bags, and those are the supply of those are put back. So they themselves, these volunteers, put them into the dog bag holders. They alert Steve Benko when there's holes dug by dogs, so that our vendor that comes in every week can fill those holes. So what you're looking at here is the new slate of volunteers. They're called an advisory committee. You can see the 6 names that are here. So what we're looking for is a motion to approve the 6 volunteers as Spencer's Run Advisory Committee as of this year. So it'd be from 21 to 22, and it will now be every year that this slate will be put in front of Parks and Rec. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer. If not, go ahead, Hank.
Rana, are these all New Canaan residents?
They are not. They're mixed. So our Spencer's Run is almost like 55% out of towners and 45% New Canaan residents. And because it's not a New Canaan Park and Rec Commission or a zoning board, which are all New Canaan residents, this is an anomaly in that these are the members that are there every day. This is actually a morning crew. When looking at this list, I know that they're all there in the morning, so they're the first ones to the park. When I say first, I mean 6 a.m. to 7:15 each day, like clockwork. So they're a great set of volunteers, but no, they are not all New Canaan. There are 2 that are not New Canaan residents out of the 6.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's George Bennington. I motion to accept the slate as presented.
Thank you, George. Is there a second? Jean Goodman, if you would just state it. Sorry, I need you unmuted.
Jean Goodman seconds the motion. Thank you, George.
Thank you, sir. Anyone opposed? All in favor, just a raise of hand. Thank you, everyone. That's unanimous. Appreciate that. I will let them know. Thank you, Jake. I saw you come on there. Great. Next item on the agenda is the rec director's report.
All right, we finished the pool season ended this past Monday and Labor Day, and we had a very successful year. I think our resident family memberships increased by about 190 memberships over the previous year. It was about 30% increase. We had 817 family members from New Canaan. We sold 95 non-resident passes, 167 individual, 98 nanny, and 181 senior pass. So we had a great season with the pool. It went very well. The programming was good at the pool. We had our swim team, which did very well. They finished second overall in the Fairfield County Swim League championships. We were second place in Division I, and we were second place in the county championships. We did have a water polo team that participated, and there's a lot of interest in that. Seems to build each year. We also contracted with Swim America to teach swimming lessons, and I think they had close to 900 children take a swimming. They did more individual lessons this year versus group lessons. They had almost 900 children involved in lessons this summer. So it was a very busy summer. It was good. The weather didn't cooperate necessarily all the time, but for the most part, it was pretty good. Our attendance was up. We had about 1,800. We had a little over 1,800 people over more this year than last year, or 13 or about 1,800 more people attend the pool this year than last year. So last year was a COVID year. We lost about 2 weeks through the pool was closed, but so it's a good comeback. It was a good season, and we'll report more in the next month or two. We have a meeting with the pool committee. So we also ran our summer concerts. We ran 11. We lost one concert, so we had to We had 10 concerts for the summer. One was rained out. We had good attendance in the last 2 concerts. We had real great weather and 2 good bands, and we had real big crowd. So it was really nice. The fields are all good and all being used now. We've got the youth football, youth soccer in the evenings, youth softball playing in the evenings on the fields on weekends. The high school teams are on the fields. John's been busy with his crew lining fields, getting things ready, so it's been very good. As I mentioned, tennis had a great year. Really picked up a lot of play, a lot of interest, a lot of new people playing. We had the senior men group playing. We had Encore group playing at the Meat Park. So there's a lot of interest that way. We did a lot of work at the paddle tennis courts this summer. We had all the skirting on the courts repainted, sandblasted, pressure washed, repainted. We had replaced 14 screens that had failed or were failing on the courts, and court 1 was totally resurfaced this summer. So a lot of work was done. That also there was some work with Tiger was great. Did some work in the parking lot. They added some curbing, so cars were parked against the court, and it also helped direct the water to the drains and stuff. So that's really helped shape that area up. We're now getting ready for our fall soccer program. We've got almost 200 children signed up for fall soccer. We have a series of pickleball clinics set up that will start next week. And as I mentioned, our fall tennis clinics are all ongoing. And we're making plans for pumpkin painting for the children in the middle of October. And we're still working on to see how we're going to do our Halloween party. Last year, because of COVID, we had a walk around event where kids came and they're dressed up, and we had all kinds of blow up figures and characters, and we had a goodie bag toss for the kids and whatever. So we're still working to see how that's going to work. We're not sure if we can have an indoor event this year again or not. We're working with the health department on that one, so we'll announce that one shortly. And then we're getting ready for the paddle season. Like I mentioned, it'll start the weekend of October 2nd, and permits are on sale now for paddle. So people are starting to buy their paddle passes as well. So, well, it's still busy. So as Bea mentioned, she just came back from vacation today, and we opened registration for sort of before and after school programs, and people were calling to sign up for those. So there's a lot. We're busy in the rec department, a lot of activities. The ADA project at Waveney House, the contractor is finishing up. The new fire escape has been put in. That contractor's got that almost finished. The new handicap ramp is up and working, and the ramps up the loggia to the back patio are completed. So everything is starting to pick up. We have quite a few weddings and other events booked for the month of September and October. So our rentals are coming back, which is a great sign. So on that, we're moving along. So.
Thank you, Steve. That's great. I would just add to your last year Halloween event. I was really impressed, the creativity that I think it was Bea and maybe Butch.
So Bill Cap,
I'm not sure, Steve Dayton, that formed the arm. Maybe you could tell us. It was at length so that the candy given to the kids that drove by was, there was distance between the person sliding the candy down. Yeah, so not sure who was responsible for that, but pictures were amazing. Thank you for your update. Any questions from anyone on the commission? Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated. All right, the Parks Department update. John, you are up.
Sounds good. Okay, well, as everybody knows, with all the storms and rain and everything else, same thing I've been talking about since July. Grass has never stopped growing. So in times like this, when we're backed up, everyone feels like they're being abused. That goes from off-season sports to athletic directors at the high school to everybody in between that too. So we're trying to get through everything, and we're making good progress. So with that, we've gone through all our properties. When I say properties, any place from Town Hall to Lapham Community Center, having a contractor come in and do the weeding and pruning. Today, we finally had a contractor in to seed our athletic field. Hopefully, if it's not too wet tonight, he'll be able to finish on Friday. As Steve mentioned, we've laid out all our grass fields and have play going on all of them for all the sports groups. Our semi-annual lightning detection system service has been done, so everything's up and running properly there. And with us taking over the maintenance of Dunning Stadium, we've had a contractor in there to pressure wash the bleachers. So that's made them much more inviting to sit on now and everything. We finally were able to start today cutting back brush on trails, which has been good. Most of our work at Kiwanis since springtime, we were able to sneak in and remove the stairs, the old wooden stairs that were complained about. We've been able to do the brush cutting in the spring. We'll go back one more time in the fall. We remulched the Lou Merino tree, the evergreen right in the center. When we replaced the nets on the basketball hoops, we found out one of the whole hoop setups was leaning, and we were worried about it as a safety concern. And while we did that, we actually fixed both of them so that they were reset in concrete so that they are no longer a safety hazard. We are having a tough time with the weeds in the playgrounds. Not exactly sure what we're going to do there, but we're working on it. And that's where we stand with Kiwanis. One other thing, I know that I think Chris Shipper's on. Bobex, they did extensive plantings down near the pond at Waveney. And with that, even though they planted deer-resistant plants, there is a need to apply deer repellent in the off-season, especially in the winter. And they'd like to apply Bobex to the plants. Environmentally safe product. It repels deer. It doesn't hurt them. It makes the plants taste bad. That's a simple way.
And John, I'm assuming for that application, because you're aware of it, that we would need a vote by the commission for the application of that, correct?
That'd be a good idea, just so that it would be on the record.
Right. And could you just refresh our memory? You're a licensed.
We actually won't do the application. Yes, I'm licensed. Any of our guys that are applying any pesticides anywhere are also licensed, along with Todd also has his supervisory license. I'd recommend, even though this is not a pesticide, it should be applied by somebody that knows what they're doing. So I'd recommend qualified company, meaning that they are licensed and insured to take care of this application.
Chris, that application is being done by a vendor.
That's correct. Henry's Landscaping did the install.
Great.
And because deer fencing is not practical around that, and even though the plants are deer resistant, they're still vulnerable. So we did a little research, and we know an independent study conducted by the Connecticut Agriculture Experiment Station, which is the Department of Forestry and Horticulture, concluded Bobex was the most effective deer repellent only after a physical fence. It scored about 93 on its protection index, while the fence obviously scores 100. Just so you know, the product contains a combination of 6 repellent ingredients that blend the scents of, listen to this, putrescent eggs, garlic, fish, clove oil, and vinegar.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that sounds awful smelling.
And oddly enough, it was in our agreement, because fencing was impossible, the agreement was then apply Bobex after planting and on a regular basis. It seems, and it says it does not harm wildlife. And I can tell you that the big snapping turtle just climbed right out on the bank. And I think he actually liked the smell of putrescent eggs, I guess is the only way to describe it. It's safe for wildlife. And to John's point, I have reached out to the contractor requesting that the fellow who's applying it demonstrate the license agreement. I haven't got the response yet. And so I think I will have to, if having a licensed applicator is required, we may, and if Henry's team member who did the application, and Henry's a pretty decent landscaper. In fact, before I continue, can I see a quick raise of hands? How many of you have seen the new planting down at Waveney Pond? 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys really ought to go take a look at it. It's pretty spectacular. We're protecting it because it's a $50,000 investment. And if it turns into deer food, it'll be a terrible experiment. So we're working on it. John, to your point, if the contractor does not have a license and does not intend to get a license to apply BobX, I'm guessing you are going to ask us to find a licensed applicator to come in and apply BobX.
That's not I'd recommend it. You know, you're applying a product similar to a pesticide on town property, and being licensed shows that you have the professional ability to do it correctly.
Okay. So then I think that you've given us a to-do, which is we like this landscaper, but if he says, hey, no one on my team who applies BobX is licensed, then I will have to go outside of Henry and find a licensed applicator. So it's going to be outside of contract, but I'll have to do that. And I'm assuming that I wouldn't be able to get Parks Department applications done on a regular basis, given your busy schedules.
I doubt we could meet your schedule. I doubt we would be able to.
Understood.
Well, we can easily find you somebody that can apply the product.
Okay, I'll work with you. I'm waiting to hear back from Henry to get his response, and from Peter at Copia, who did the planting, put out plants together. But if I can't, if his response is I do not have that license, then I will reach out to you and find a licensed applicator.
Hank, I see you have your hand up. Hank, you have a question?
Yes, John, can we be assured that there's absolutely no downside to BobX? Can we say that, or is that too extreme?
I'd never say there's no downside to anything that you apply. There's a downside to when we cut the grass. So with that, no, there could be. Is BobX safe? Yes. We had to apply deer repellent to the shrubs that we planted behind the bleachers at Lapton Senior Center. Those are deer resistant plants. And all of a sudden, I believe it was the beginning of January, we could see deer damage on them. And we applied it to them so that we wouldn't have that beautiful arborvitae look of no branches where they like to eat. So, but BobX is a very safe product.
That's great to hear. Good question, Hank. I would ask then the commission if we can get a motion to approve the application of BobX by a licensed vendor, and with the understanding that Chris will be working directly with John. If the current landscaping vendor doesn't have someone licensed, and I've seen the work firsthand that these guys have done around the pond, and it's impeccable to say the least. It's really outstanding. So if it is not a licensed, you will come back around to John and find someone. Do we have a motion for that approval?
I'll go ahead with that. Jake.
Sorry, who said that?
Jake said that, sorry.
Jake, thank you so much. And do I have a second?
I'll second Carl Mason.
Carl Mason, thank you. Anyone opposed? All in favor? Congrats. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great night, Chris.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for that coordination. We'll look for you to come back. Did you have more you want to finish your report though, John?
No, I'm all set.
Can I ask a question of John?
Of course.
Lapham Center, I haven't been there in 2 weeks because I'm away, but when I was last there, the weeding beds all around the building were in really bad shape.
Then I'd suggest you go back tomorrow morning bright and early as the sun comes up, because everything's been done. It was all done last week.
I'm in Vermont. I'm in Vermont. When I go back, I'll see. I'm just letting you know it was that way when I went. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Kudos, John. Thank you, Francesca. All right, great. The last item on the agenda is the chairman's report. I guess I want to start by just recognizing Laura Costigan. For those that have not heard, Laura Costigan's last meeting will be October 13th, so next month. The amount of hours and dedication, blood, sweat, and tears that she has put forth for New Canaan, the town of New Canaan, and specifically for the Park and Rec Commission. I could go on, but I think it's crucial in a time like now where volunteering, you make zero and you put in a lot of effort. Laura, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the commission. We really appreciate everything you've given to us. And I'll ask if there's anybody else that would like to say something on the commission to Laura. And if not now, you certainly can at October 13th.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve, and a privilege, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But I feel like my time has come, and it's time for some new blood to continue the mission, which has been excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Laura. You helped me out on a project or two, so so thank you for your service while we've been on this commission together.
I think we've done a lot of good things, so it's been very rewarding experience for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, somebody else said, yeah, it was like a child in the background. That was great.
Yes.
Perfect. That was great. The only other item I have for Chairman's report is that I just wanted to recognize a recent topic that came up with Chief Kolakowski, and it was to remind those people that are in and out of our parks to remember to lock your car. He mentioned that 95% of the thefts from the cars involved an unlocked car. So to remind people visiting our parks, to not leave anything in the back seat when you do lock your car, because that's when windows are being broken. So I would just remind our residents and visitors that when you're in our parks and visiting us, to remember to lock your car and not leave anything on the seat visible. And that was a great suggestion on behalf of Hank to check in on what his suggestions are. So thank you for that. And with that, I will ask if there is anyone like to give a motion to end our meeting here at 8:41. Thank you, Francesca.
Segalis, motion to
Thank you.
adjourn.
Matt Consfor has his hand up for a second. Is there anyone opposed to ending our, I didn't think so. All in favor, and have a wonderful night, everyone. We'll see you in October. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, Fran.
Take care, Laura. I'm so bummed. Steve, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The bench at the pickleball court, somebody said that the bench outside the courts is gone?
Somebody moved it down the hill. We'll have to move it back up.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for everything. The concerts were awesome this year.
They went well. We had to play weather roulette, but it went very well.
Yeah, that was too bad, but the one I attended was great. Everybody loves them.
Yeah, they went.
Take care. Bye, B.